Hello, I'm Mike Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. You know, as we start into the new year, it's always good to look at what's going to make an impact on global events. Things like the upcoming US elections, major developments in Israel, and many more events are shaping the world in 2024. The following is a brief overview of what Christian writers are considering as the 6 megatrends for the upcoming year, which carry important prophetic significance. First on the list is artificial intelligence. Now, some people might argue that rather than artificial intelligence, perhaps we should be really looking at why natural intelligence is waning. And to be honest, it's a subject I'd like to discuss at another time. But staying on topic, the first prophetic megatrend seen is AI, artificial intelligence. And it's really come on the scene in a dramatic way over the last year, but it's going to continue to accelerate into a mushroom as we go into 2024. You know, it's kind of similar to when smartphones came out and the internet and, well, should I say the steam engine as well, when they were introduced. But no one is saying AI will be evil. But in the wrong hands, for example, someone like the Antichrist will use the tools AI provides. Already we can see the way this world is progressing with technology, and it's never been clearer that the Antichrist will use all the tools provided by AI, and they'll be at his disposal. Number 2, China's impact on global events. China, as most biblical scholars believe, will be the leader of the kings of the East, mentioned in Revelation 16. That'll be part of the campaign of Armageddon. Well, over the past year, the country has been talking about the reunification of China, which means taking Taiwan and making it a part of the communist regime. Now, many are positive in their belief based on evidence that China right now is sensing US weakness. They look ahead to next November when somebody else could be elected to office and believe that China is going to seize the opportunity between now and the elections to attack Taiwan. You may recall we spoke about this in our Growing Tensions podcast back in June last year. But the US elections this year are a huge issue that will determine in many ways America's future. China could very well act this year, maybe early in the year, because they're sensing that weakness and just take Taiwan, just as Russia has invaded the Ukraine. On number 3, well, here's another issue I've already spoken about last year, and it's the prophetic megatrend of digital currencies, which is paving the way to the one world economy for the Antichrist. Now, I mentioned in our Great Reset podcast series this time last year, the New Zealand Reserve Bank is all ready for when that green light is given to roll this out in this country. And if you listen back to that podcast, we warned you about how this will make a major impact on your freedom. Number 4, narratives surrounding climate change. Another point that we often overlook is climate change. Climate change is being grossly over-exaggerated to exert greater control over people's lives. Recently, the COP28 annual UN Climate Change Conference was held in Dubai. Now, climate change is being whipped up constantly as an existential crisis for the world, and that's simply not true. To be honest, I'm a climate change denier for several reasons. The first is I'm old enough to know weather patterns change over the decades, and weather patterns do repeat themselves. Second reason, according to the former US Vice President Al Gore, we'll be living in the sea and polar bears will be walking the streets. Now, incidentally, statistics released at the end of 2023 show the number of polar bears has increased. So yes, I'm sceptical about climate change, and like me, you have every right to disagree with me, just as I must disagree with you. But what we see again is that creation of a crisis can bring about compliance to gain control. This is what climate change is, and it's paving the way for the global control that we'll see exercised by the Antichrist. Now, the 5th prophetic megatrend is Russia. An article earlier this week stated that Russia's ties with Israel, well, they're at the lowest point since the fall of the Soviet Union. Another article called it the end of a friendship between Israel and Russia. Now, Russia has chosen to align itself with the Palestinians in this Israel-Gaza war. As a result, the relationship with Israel is at a near all-time low. This development points towards the future war described in Ezekiel 38:39. Number 6. Israel and the Middle East. The biggie, the flashing red light, the megatrend. We're now months into the Israel-Gaza war, and recent events that are happening in Israel could cause this conflict to explode into a wider battle. Israel's mission to hunt down Hamas is stoking fears of an escalation of this war. Well, that's the 6 mega trends. But what about the spark that ignites the fuse? Iran is obviously a veteran enemy of Israel, but we can also now see that Russia and Turkey's relationship with Israel is deteriorating. These are the 3 key players in the Ezekiel 38 invasion. All 3 of these relationships with Israel have come to an all-time low. This area of the world today is experiencing a series of pinprick attacks that constantly put more and more gas on the fire. Behind all this, you have the Israel-Gaza war that shows no sign of dwindling. Add to what's already happening over the Red Sea with the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who are firing at the American warships, and the Iranian warships now entering into the Red Sea. All of these different events, or the combination of them, could easily be the spark that ignites the fuse to blow up this Middle East powder keg and can so easily precipitate the war of Ezekiel 38. Now, over the last few weeks, I read a book by Dr. David Jeremiah called The Great Disappearance. He opens the book with these words. He says, "You and I are privileged to stand on the cresting waves of prophecy, to live in a time closer to the return of Jesus Christ than any other generation in the history of the world. We sense the nearness of his return. We see the signs of the times. We know the world is reaching a climatic point of unparalleled crisis." I think we all sense that. And it should lead all of us to say, even so, come Lord Jesus.